Chapter 363. Mo left the corpse village and returned to hunting island number 1. Now, he had destroyed the number 1 corpse village in Yuzhou and the number 2 Tiandao sect. The materials collected from these two forces far exceeded the total amount of the base before. There were enough materials to produce mechas. Little Monk immediately ordered people to start producing mechas again. According to Little Monk's calculation, the materials collected this time should be enough to produce more than 1,500 mechas. By then, the base would have 2,000 mechas. This number was probably not much less than that of the Yuzhou military. As for Mo, he was thinking about what to do next. Now that he had the map of the ancient battlefield of dragons, the only thing he needed to do was to raise his strength to that of a desolate hunter. Mo planned to spend some time on hunting island number 8 or hunting island number 9. However, before he had the chance to go, a guest arrived that day. It was none other than the military boss, Lu Shuming. Mo had a good impression of this military boss. He asked people to welcome him in. Lu Shuming looked at the shabby factories around and was quite surprised. The World Society, which destroyed the Corpse Village and the Tiandao sect, is actually so shabby. Gang leader Mo, you've really opened my eyes. Mo shook his head and said with a smile, I just think it's too troublesome to build a house again. If I can make do with it, I'll make do with it. Lu Shuming nodded. Yes, being thrifty is the traditional virtue of the people of Yuzhou. Then Lu Shuming looked Mo up and down. Mo was a little embarrassed. He asked, Commander Lu, what's wrong? Lu Shuming smiled. I don't even recognize you. Mo naturally knew what he was referring to. He joked, I'm still the same young man. I haven't changed at all. Lu Shuming shook his head. Back in the martial arts competition, you were just a little guy who tried to defeat other strong people and win the championship. Your world society only has a dozen or so people. It's only been 2 months since we last met, and your world society has already destroyed the 2 behemoths, Corpse Chasing Village and Heavenly Dao sect. According to the official ranking, your world society is now firmly in the top position in Yuzhou. You, Mo are already the head of the biggest gang in Yuzhou province. Mo shook his head. Compared to the military of Yuzhou province, it's like Yinghua to the bright moon. Lu Shuming asked, What? Do you want to destroy our Yuzhou military? Mo replied, How would I dare? As long as I'm not annihilated by your Yuzhou army, it's fine. Lu Shuming also joked, If you don't want to be annihilated by our Yuzhou military, it's actually very simple. As long as you join our Yuzhou military, you will be one of us. Mo attitude was still the same as during the martial arts tournament. I'm used to being free. If I join the military, I'm afraid I'll cause trouble for you. Lu Shuming shrugged. So be it. It's not like I'm forcing you to join. The military commander of Yuzhou province has ordered me to tie you up if you don't join us. So, in order for this old brother to complete his task, little brother, you have to suffer a little and make a trip to the military. How about you meet the commander? Mo thought about it. Although he didn't want to join the military, he didn't want his relationship with the military to be too strained. After all, the military's strength was far from what the current world society could contend against. Moreover, a colossus like the military had taken the initiative to express goodwill. Even if he didn't want to join the military, he still had to give them enough face. After all, Mo didn't want to make enemies all over the world. With this thought, he nodded. Since Commander Lu has personally come, I can only comply. I can't let you tie me up and take me away, right? If that happened, where would I put my face as the leader of the world society? Seeing that Mo had agreed, Lu Shuming was in a good mood. Then pack up. We'll set off as soon as possible. Mo nodded. In truth, there's nothing to pack. I just need to give a few instructions to the others. Half an hour later, Mo sat in a military aircraft and flew toward the Yuzhou military headquarters at a speed of 5,000 meters per second. Mo secretly let out a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Lu Shuming wanted to visit the base. If Lu Shuming knew that the World Society could produce combat mechas, it would probably attract the attention of the military. Yozhou's law stated that private individuals were not allowed to produce mechas. Fortunately, the workshop that produced combat mechas wasn't too conspicuous. Lu Shuming also didn't mention that he wanted to visit their base just now. It seemed that when he returned, he had to find a way to hide the workshop that produced combat mechas. This time, the World Society had produced 400 combat mechas at once. This must have attracted the attention of many people. Although the military wanted him to join the World Society, if he didn't join, they might investigate the World Society in the future. It seemed that he had to get more evolution points as soon as possible. When the system upgraded again, he would see if the virtual Dragon Palace could be upgraded as well. With the level that Mosher had come into contact with, the virtual Dragon Palace was already slightly lacking in both attack and defense. After more than 5 hours, they had already arrived at the Yuzhou military headquarters. The Yuzhou military headquarters didn't look like the army camp that Mosher had imagined. Instead, it looked like some kind of ancient fortress. In addition to the surrounding walls that were 100 meters tall, there were 5 sentry towers that were 1,000 meters tall. Each sentry tower was made of metal. The thickest part of the sentry tower had a diameter of 100 meters. Each sentry tower was like a fortress that was 1,000 meters tall. On each sentry tower, there were hundreds of particle laser cannons. These particle laser cannons were enough to instantly kill a level 5 mutated desolate beast. Inside these sentry towers, there were all kinds of high-tech equipment. There were quantum detectors, microwave converters, wormhole space-splitting devices. Mosher looked at all this and sighed in his heart. As expected of the military, they were rich and imposing. When his base could be built like this, it would be awesome. Lu Shuming looked at Mosher's expression that was like a country boy entering the city and couldn't help but laugh. How is it? Mosher nodded repeatedly. Yes, it's amazing. Then are you a little bit moved? Do you want to join the military? Mosher shrugged. I'm moved, but I'll pass on joining the military. Lu Shuming smiled. It seems that you're not moved enough. While they were talking, the soldiers in the base saw Mosher arrive. There was a trace of curiosity in their eyes. This was the leader who destroyed the Tiandao sect and the corpse village. They thought that he was an old man over 50 years old, but they didn't expect him to be so young. Of course, the military was disciplined. They wouldn't talk like ordinary people. They just looked at Mosher a few more times. Chapter 364. Mosher followed Lu Shuming into the tower. It looked like the interior of some kind of ship. The walls, floor, and various equipment were all sturdy and durable. Lu Shuming led the way while introducing. The military base guards the fortress. Further ahead of the mountain pass is the wild beast forest, which is basically filled with wild beasts below level 5. There are countless of them. The military guards here, so all kinds of facilities naturally have to be sturdy and durable. Mosher nodded. Lu Shuming took Mosher to the second floor. The second floor was basically filled with leisure and entertainment facilities. The soldiers guarded here all year round. Except for the wild beast forest, they only went out a few times a year. Entertainment facilities were naturally indispensable. Then they went to a reception room on the 3rd floor. Lu Shuming asked Mosher to wait here while he reported to the commander. 2 minutes later, Lu Shuming came back again. In front of him was an old man who looked to be in his 70s. Of course, this was only his apparent age. This man was a desolate hunter and could live up to 500 years old. He looked to be in his 70s, but he was probably over 400 years old. However, although he looked a little old, he was in good spirits. Even when he walked, he looked like a professional soldier who had worked for many years. Lu Shuming introduced him to Mosher. This is the commander of our Yuzhou military, Commander Qi. Commander Qi smiled and extended his hand to Mosher. Welcome, Leader Mo of the World Society. He didn't have the air of a military leader at all. On the contrary, he looked approachable. Mosher also smiled and shook hands with him. Commander Qi said to Mosher, Leader Mo, what do you think of our military? Mosher smiled and said, Of course. One word. Awesome. Commander Qi smiled and asked, Does Leader Mo have any intention of joining our military? Mosher shook his head and said, I'm really ashamed that Commander Chi thinks so highly of me, but I've always been used to freedom and can't stand so many restrictions. Please forgive me. Commander Chi laughed and said, There's nothing to forgive. Everyone has their own ambitions. Today, I asked Commander Lu to invite clan leader Mo over because I want to get to know the young and promising clan leader Mo. Lu Shuming thought to himself, Commander, that's not what you said when you sent me there. Commander Chi continued, It's rare for gang leader Mo to come here, so why don't you stay for a few more days? Although the beauty of this place is not unique, it is also rare to see it in other places. Mo sure nodded. Of course, of course. After that, the few of them exchanged a few more pleasantries. The banquet had already been set up to welcome Mosher. Everyone at the banquet toasted each other, and the atmosphere was lively. However, to Mosher's surprise, Commander Chi didn't mention anything about him joining the military again. Similarly, no one else mentioned it again. After the banquet, Mosher was arranged to rest in a guest room on the 5th floor. On the 4th floor, Commander Chi returned to his study. Lu Shuming used the excuse of sending Commander Chi back and followed him into the study. Commander Chi asked with a smile, Are you going to ask me why I didn't mention that again? Lu Shuming nodded. Yes. Commander Chi sat down, made a cup of tea for Lu Shuming and himself and said, I've seen countless people in my life, and I'm very good at judging people. From the first time I saw Mosher, from his eyes, I knew that he wasn't a fish in a pond. Lu Shuming nodded. Yes, his talent is indeed astonishing. Even in the military, it's extremely rare. Commander Chi shook his head and said, Talent is one thing, but more importantly, it's his outlook. In my opinion, his eyes never seem to be focused on what's in front of him, but on the entire continent. There are many talented people, but the more talented they are, the easier it is for them to be blinded by the benefits in front of them. Therefore, there are very few people who are talented but can focus on the future and the wider world. He's definitely one of them. If such a person grows up in the future, his future will be limitless. Lu Shuming was also a little surprised. I didn't expect you to think so highly of him. Commander Chi said, I'm just judging people. Lu Shuming said, I originally thought that letting him join the military would be good for his future development. But now it seems that I was short-sighted. Commander Chi said, If such a person can really grow up, his achievements are beyond our imagination. If he joins our military, it will limit his growth. Lu Shuming agreed. That's true. Commander Chi said, So if he doesn't join the military, let him be. But if he needs any help, our military will try our best to provide him with convenience. Lu Shuming nodded. Yes. Commander Chi added, By the way, aren't you going to suppress the bandits in 2 days? If he's willing to go, take him with you. Such a person doesn't lack talent or outlook, only experience. Let him experience more things, and he will grow faster. Lu Shuming nodded again. Yes. After leaving Commander Chi's room, Lu Shuming was still a little surprised. He had thought that Commander Chi valued Mosher very much. But Commander Chi valued Mosher too much. It didn't seem like the respect an elder would have for a junior. Thinking of this, Lu Shuming seemed to have suddenly thought of something. It turned out that Commander Chi once had a son. He was also extremely talented. Commander Chi valued his son very much. When his son was only 6 years old, he let him enter the military headquarters and train like an ordinary soldier. When Commander Chi's son was 15 years old, the commander was even stricter with him. The training intensity was much higher than that of ordinary soldiers. His son had indeed grown up very quickly. At the age of 20, he had already become one of the best among his peers. Even the geniuses in the military were slightly inferior to the commander's son. However, there was one time when the beast tide attacked. The commander insisted that his son lead the troops to the front line. He wanted him to make contributions at a young age and win glory for himself. In the end, his son sacrificed himself on the front line. This incident dealt a great blow to his memory. Although he had long thought that if he became a soldier, it was very likely that he would die on the front line one day. When this day really came, he almost couldn't bear it. From then on, the commander seemed to have changed into a different person. He was no longer as strict with these soldiers as before. It was probably because of that incident that he was unwilling to force Mosher anymore after seeing Mosher. In fact, it was just as Lu Shuming thought. Commander Qi had already thought it through. Everyone had their own path, and if they were pushed too hard, it was very likely that it would backfire on them. Chapter 365. In the central sentry tower of the military base. Mosher was lying on the bed. There were some doubts in his heart. Apart from asking if he was willing to join the military at the beginning, Commander Qi didn't mention this matter again. It was very strange. However, in line with the principle of not thinking about it if he couldn't figure it out, Mosher quickly threw these distracting thoughts out of his mind. Instead, he said in his heart, "System, sign in." It wasn't easy to come to the military base. If he didn't sign in, wouldn't it be too wasteful? Soon, the system's voice came, frowny face sign unsuccessful. Sign in location. Central Sentry Tower of the Yuzhou Military Headquarters. Sign in reward. One sentry tower. Mosher focused his attention on the sentry tower in his backpack. He found that this sentry tower wasn't a virtual sentry tower. It was physical. The entire sentry tower was almost exactly the same as the military sentry tower. There were 100 particle laser cannons on it. There were also various detection devices. Inside the sentry tower, there were various monitoring devices. Mosher couldn't help but feel happy. Not to mention other things, just these 100 particle laser cannons were very awesome. In the future, if there were any desolate hunters below level 5 who dared to rashly invade the first hunting island, these 100 particle laser cannons could instantly kill them. There was no need for him to do anything. It seemed that he really made the right choice to come to the military headquarters this time. If he stayed here for a few more days, wouldn't he have to sign in the entire military headquarters? Of course, in this military headquarters, Mosher was very careful even when signing in. He just glanced at the military headquarters. There was a Grand Desolate Master in charge. That was an existence that he was far from being able to contend with. And in addition to the Grand Desolate Master, there was also a psychic. It should be known that every psychic could directly affect people's minds. It was either bewitchment, creating illusions, or directly controlling people's minds. In addition, Mosher's dragons will also detected that the military had as many as 5,000 mechas. He had thought that if he could build 2,000 mechas, he would be able to compete with the Yuzhou military. But now it seemed that he had underestimated the strength of the Yuzhou military. The next day, Mosher had nothing to do, so he wandered around the military. He went to the armory of the Yuzhou military and signed in. Thus, he obtained an armory. Moreover, there were all kinds of the most advanced weapons in the arsenal. There was a particle laser gun, an ultrasonic gun, and a thermobaric cannon. These were the most advanced weapons on the continent. It was simply impossible for an ordinary force to possess these things. Next, Mosher signed in to the logistics department, the training ground, the holographic simulation combat practice field, and so on. Unfortunately, he could only sign in twice a day. He estimated that he would have to stay in the base for at least a month before he could sign in the entire base. Mosher reckoned that if he didn't join the military, they wouldn't let him stay in the base for long. Sure enough, on the 5th day, Lu Shuming came looking for Mosher. Mosher smiled and asked, "Do you think I ate too much and want to chase me away?" Lu Shuming said, "What are you talking about? You can be considered my little brother now. The base is your home. You can come and go whenever you want. You can stay as long as you want." Mosher said, "Really? Then I plan to stay here for a month." Lu Shuming said, "Of course. This is what the commander ordered." Mosher's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect Commander Qi to think so highly of him. Could it be that there was some conspiracy? But he didn't care. He had to sign in the entire base first. But Lu Shuming said, "In recent months, there have been a large number of bandits in our Yuzhou. We have now obtained clues and plan to suppress the bandits tomorrow. Do you want to go and take a look?" Hearing this, Mosher thought for a while and nodded. If it's possible, Then I'll go and take a look. He naturally had to go and take a look at the military. Early the next morning, the military had finished organizing the troops. There were 1,000 combat mechas and 5,000 soldiers. And these soldiers were basically all level 5 and above. This could be considered a grand occasion. Mosher was a little puzzled when he saw the military mobilizing so many forces. He asked Lu Shuming next to him, "Commander Lu, what are bandits? Are they very strong?" Although he had occasionally heard of bandits in the past, there were almost no bandits in Yuzhou, so he didn't know much about them. Lu Shuming explained, "The so-called bandits are some desperados who have broken the law. They have nowhere to go, so they enter the wilderness together. Gradually, as time passed, their number increased. Then they came out to rob. If they encounter a bigger force, they will escape into the wilderness again. So they are called bandits." Mosher asked, "Haven't they been wiped out before? How can they be allowed to grow?" Lu Shuming said, "Bandits are very cunning. Once there is any movement, they will escape into the wilderness. They live in the wilderness all year round and are very familiar with the wilderness. They can even use the beast tide to avoid encirclement and suppression. Therefore, the previous encirclement and suppression basically ended in failure." Mosher asked, "Beast tide?" Lu Shuming nodded. "Some wild beasts reproduce on a large scale and form a beast tide. The beast tide can range from hundreds of thousands to tens of millions. Wherever they pass, not a single blade of grass grows. Even a level 10 hunter can only hide in front of a beast tide." Hearing this, Mosher's heart skipped a beat. The beast tide in the eyes of others was just evolution points in his eyes. Lu Shuming said, "So in the future, if you encounter a beast tide, hide as much as you can." This was a kind advice. Mosher nodded and said, "Understood." Lu Shuming continued, "The scale of the military suppression of bandits this time is the largest in the past 2 years. They are trying to inflict heavy losses on the bandits so that they won't dare to come out and cause trouble in the short term." Mosher asked, "Why not completely exterminate them, but only inflict heavy losses?" Lu Shuming smiled bitterly. "You don't know. The bandits are very cunning, and they are not all gathered together. Instead, they are divided into more than 10 groups. If one group is destroyed, the other group will also receive the news and retreat into the wilderness. In the wilderness, not only do they have many hiding places, but they are also very secretive. So it is almost impossible to catch them all in one go." Mosher nodded. "Looks like these bandits are really powerful." Speaking up to this point, Lu Shuming looked at Mosher and asked, "Do you have any good ideas?" Mosher shook his head. "The military has so many talents, but you can't think of any ideas." "What ideas do I have? Furthermore, suppressing bandits is the military's job. I'm just going to watch the fun." Lu Shuming nodded. "Yes, you are right." Half a day later, they had already arrived at a city called Ninyang City. The news said that a group of bandits had just robbed Ninyang City and were now celebrating in the city. Chapter 366. According to the news, a group of bandits had just looted Ninyang City and were celebrating in the city. Ninyang City was considered a medium-sized city. It was about the same size as Mosher's base. Lu Shuming had already given the order for everyone to quietly surround the entire city from all sides. All kinds of particle laser guns, energy-gathering guns, and so on were arranged. Once those people wanted to escape, there was basically no way they would die. Mosher used his dragon's will to investigate the city. Sure enough, he found that the city was already covered in blood. 1/3 of the people were dead on the streets. Although the remaining 2/3 were not dead, none of them dared to resist. There were about 500 bandits. They were basically level 5 to level 2 or level 3 desolate hunters. However, the leader of the bandits was a level 8 desolate hunter. And it was certain that he had been in battle for a long time and could unleash strength far beyond level 8. He could be regarded as a level 9 or even level 10 desolate hunter. Mosher asked Lu Shuming, who was standing next to him, "How strong is the strongest warrior among us?" Lu Shuming smiled and said, "Don't worry, The strongest person we sent this time is a level 8 Desolate Hunter. He's the strongest person we've ever sent. Emo asked again, "How many level 8 Desolate Hunters are there?" Lu Shuming replied, "3. Then, he turned to Emo and asked, "What's wrong?" Emo said, "The leader of the bandits here is a level 8 Desolate Hunter." Lu Shuming frowned slightly and asked, "You can detect it with your psychic power?" Emo said, "Yes. Their strongest person is a level 8 Desolate Hunter and 3 level 7 Desolate Hunters. There are 12 level 6 Desolate Hunters." Lu Shuming frowned slightly. "Is the information wrong?" Then, he said to the keyboard player beside him, "Release the surveillance drones." The keyboard player operated for a while and soon released dozens of surveillance drones. Emo watched the keyboard player's operation carefully. It seemed that he was even more skilled than the little monk. It was obvious that he had worked hard. However, the speed of the surveillance drones was still slower than the little monk's. This was because the little monk had once improved the steps of releasing the drone. Generally, one would need to eject the drone cabin from the mech, open the wings of the drone, and eject a stream of particles before it could truly fly into the air. As for the small monk, he directly simplified the configuration. The drone has no hanger. They were directly attached to the top of the mech. It looked like the exposed spine of the mech. An ejection system was installed on the mech. When in use, all you need to do is press a button to activate the ejection system. It would instantly launch all the drones into the air. The UAV would only turn on its particle thrusters when it was launched into the air. This was much faster than the traditional method of ascending into the air. Thinking of this, Emo could not help but sigh. Talent was really more important than hard work. If one did not have talent, hard work would increase the lower limit, but if the upper limit was already there, hard work would be useless. Very quickly, hundreds of surveillance drones flew into Nanyang City. After a round of probing, Lu Shuming's expression became increasingly unsightly. The results of the probe showed that, just as Emo had said, the strongest among these bandits was a level 8 Desolate Hunter. It seemed that the information was wrong. However, at this point, the arrow was already knocked on the bow and had to be released. He said to the keyboard player next to him, "Immediately report that the information is wrong." Then he spoke to all the soldiers through the headset. "The strongest enemy is a level 8 Desolate Hunter. Everyone, be careful to hide and maintain your distance. Do not be discovered by the level 8 Desolate Hunter. Wait for our assassination team to move out and assassinate the level 8 Desolate Hunter. Then we will move out." When the soldiers heard that the strongest opponent was a level 8 Desolate Hunter, they all felt a chill in their hearts. They hurriedly stopped moving. Very quickly, an order came from the commander. "Send an assassination team to try and assassinate the level 8 Desolate Hunter. The reinforcement team is already on the way." "Yes." Lu Shuming responded. He immediately ordered the assassination team to move out. There were 3 people in the assassination team. 1 sniper, 1 observer, and 1 defender. The sniper was responsible for hunting. The observer was responsible for investigating the situation. The defender was responsible for protecting the sniper and observer, and looking for a way out. This was the most typical assassination team in the military. Emo did not intend to make a move. He wanted to understand how the military acted in various situations. This way, if there was a day when the relationship with the usual military broke down, he would know the enemy as well as himself. Very quickly, the assassination team wore camouflage suits and moved stealthily toward a mountain not far away. This kind of camouflage suit could avoid detection by radar, infrared, and several detection devices. Half an hour later, the assassination team found the location. At a certain moment, the sniper pulled the trigger. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Emo was secretly surprised. One had to know that a level 8 Desolate Hunter's reaction was extremely fast. Even the defense system of his virtual dragon palace could be dodged by a level 2 Desolate Hunter. How could a level 8 Desolate Hunter not be able to dodge a sniper rifle? However, it turned out that he was wrong. In his detection, as soon as the gunshot sounded, the level 8 Desolate Hunter exploded. That's right, the Desolate Hunter's body exploded. It exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Hiss! Mosher could not help but gasp. A level 8 Desolate Hunter was so easily killed by a sniper rifle. Moreover, in his detection, the armor-piercing high-explosive bullet did not fly straight ahead. With the speed of the armor-piercing high-explosive bullet, if it flew forward, the level 8 Desolate Hunter would definitely dodge it. In Mosher's detection, the armor-piercing high-explosive bullet disappeared instantly after leaving the muzzle. When it reappeared, it had already hit the level 8 Desolate Hunter. Lu Shuming saw Mosher's surprised expression and explained with a smile, "This is a wormhole sniper rifle. This is a wormhole sniper rifle. It uses wormhole technology. This sniper rifle has two functions. One is to shoot bullets and the other is to mark. The sniper uses a micromagnetic field to mark the target's body. Then the bullet will be shot. The bullet will teleport to the target's body through wormhole technology." Hearing this, Mosher was amazed. "I've never heard of such a sniper rifle before." Lu Shuming smiled. "It was just developed not long ago and has not been mass-produced yet. This sniper rifle was only an experimental one. At its strongest, this sniper rifle can instantly kill a level 10 Desolate Hunter." Hearing this, Mosher was secretly envious. With such a sniper rifle, why would he be afraid of a level 10 Desolate Hunter? One shot, one kill. Such a sniper rifle must have cost a lot to make, right? Mosher asked. Lu Shuming smiled. Of course, such a sniper rifle costs hundreds of millions. Moreover, it's priceless. Currently, there's only one in the entire Yuzhou military. Hearing this, Mosher thought to himself, "If I were to sign in, would I get such a sniper rifle?" Chapter 367. Mosher wanted to sign in for the wormhole sniper rifle. However, it was obvious that he couldn't sign in for the sniper rifle just by looking at it. Based on his understanding of the system, he had to at least touch the sniper rifle or even kill the enemy with it. However, the sniper rifle was regarded as a treasure by the military. How could he touch it as he wished? It seemed that he had to wait for an opportunity. At this moment, after the level 8 Desolate Hunter died, Lu Shuming immediately gave the order. "Everyone, shrink the encirclement. If you encounter any bandits, kill them without mercy." Someone next to him asked, "What if the bandits take the civilians as hostages?" Lu Shuming said, "Then we can only let these civilians fend for themselves." The Yuzhou military was not a charity. Mosher's heart trembled slightly as he looked at Lu Shuming beside him. Shouldn't the safety of the hostages be the prerequisite? Lu Shuming smiled bitterly and said, "We've had many such examples in the past. For the safety of the hostages, our soldiers either put down their weapons and become live targets for the enemy, or let the enemy escape and harm more civilians. Therefore, our current method is to kill the enemy as the main goal. Everything else is secondary." Mosher nodded. There was no right or wrong in this kind of matter. Thinking about it from another perspective, if he went to suppress the bandits and encountered a hostage who was taken hostage, would he put down his gun for the hostage and let the bandits kill him, or would he risk the injury of the hostage and destroy the bandits? The answer was self-evident. And there was another advantage to doing this. When the enemy knew that he wouldn't put down his gun for the hostage, they naturally wouldn't support the hostage. This would make the hostage safer. As Mosher was thinking, the encirclement gradually shrank. Finally, the two sides came into contact. Boom! A wall was blasted through. Boom! A building was directly blasted down. Boom! A huge pit was formed on the ground by the huge force. This Nianyang city was riddled with holes under the battle between the two sides. Lu Shuming looked at the overall situation and strategized from the images captured by the drone in the sky. The other side had lost their strongest level 8 Desolate Hunter. It seemed that this battle was one-sided. 3 level 8 Desolate Hunters from the military were floating in midair. They were only focused on one thing, the level 7 hunters on the other side. Once the level 7 hunter tried to escape, they would stop him. At this moment, the level 7 desolate hunters among the bandits realized that they had nowhere to run. The 5 of them looked at each other. Then, the 5 of them each took out a bottle of medicine and consumed it. In just a few breaths' time, the auras of the 5 cultivators skyrocketed. Soon, all 5 of them had the aura of a level 8 desolate hunter. Seeing this, the 3 level 8 desolate hunters from the military felt a chill in their hearts. What the 5 of them had consumed was obviously some kind of forbidden drug. This kind of forbidden medicine could raise the strength of these 5 people by 1 level in a short period of time. Of course, the side effects of this kind of forbidden medicine were extremely great. Some paid the price of shortening their lifespan, and some paid the price of never being able to advance any further in the future. Moreover, the better the effect of the medicine, the greater the side effects. Seeing this, the 3 level 8 desolate hunters from the military quickly reported to Lu Shuming. Hearing this, Lu Shuming hurriedly shouted, "Sniper! Do it!" The sniper had already taken aim at one of them. Bang! A sniper shot rang out. One of them exploded into a cloud of blood mist. When the remaining 4 level 8 desolate hunters from the bandits saw this, their eyes became bloodshot. They avoided the sniper's position while avoiding the 3 level 8 desolate hunters from the military in the sky. However, the 3 level 8 desolate hunters from the military kept blasting the ground with their energy, clearing the obstacles on the ground one by one and creating a field of vision for the sniper. When the 4 level 8 desolate hunters saw this, they gritted their teeth in hatred. Seeing their companions being killed by the military, the 4 of them looked at each other. F***CK. Let's fight. F***CK. Even if I have to sacrifice 10 years of my life, I will kill these F***curs today. Ah! As the 4 of them roared, they each took out 10 bottles of medicine. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Soon, the aura of the 4 of them soared again. Level 9 error. In the sky, when the 3 level 8 desolate hunters from the military saw this, their expressions changed. Commander, their levels have risen to level 9. When Lu Shuming heard this, he knew this was bad. He hurriedly shouted, "Protect the sniper!" Now that the other party had risen to level 9, their first target would definitely be the commander's sniper. Before he finished speaking, the 4 desolate hunters jumped into the sky almost at the same time. They shot 4 thick beams of energy at the sniper's position. When the 3 members of the assassination team saw this, they felt a sense of despair in their hearts. It's over. Among the 3 of them, the strongest was only a level 2 desolate hunter. Even if they were not hit by these 4 beams of energy, just the aftermath alone would be enough to blast them into pieces. Moreover, they did not even have time to use the wormhole teleportation device. No matter how they looked at it, they had no chance of escaping. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Boom! At the same time, the 4 beams of energy blasted the figure almost simultaneously. A glaring red and white light suddenly flooded the area within a radius of 1,000 meters. Lu Shuming was originally worried about the sniper when he suddenly felt that there was one less person beside him. The next moment, he saw a figure appear where the sniper was. This person was none other than Emoshur. Of course, although Lu Shuming was surprised, he was not too worried. After all, he was a big shot in the military. He knew that with Emoshur's personality, if he was not confident, he would never take such a risk. Therefore, with Emoshur here, the sniper team could be considered safe. The reality was just as he thought. When the red and white light around them dissipated, they saw that Emoshur was still standing there. He was unharmed. The 3 members of the assassination team behind him were also unharmed. Apart from Lu Shuming, everyone else was shocked when they saw this scene. Under the combined attack of 4 level 9 desolate hunters, he was actually unharmed. Even the clothes on his body were not damaged at all. In their eyes, this was simply unimaginable. They did not know that the dragon scale Emoshur had obtained from signing in. It was immune to any kind of attack. Not to mention level 9 desolate hunters. Even if they were level 9 desolate hunters, they would not be able to affect Emoshur at all. Behind Emoshur, the The 3 members of the assassination team were shocked when they saw this. At the same time, they were also grateful to Mosher. "We owe you our lives," the sniper said. Mosher thought to himself, "Now I should be able to sign in for the wormhole sniper rifle." Chapter 368. Mosher's main purpose of saving the assassination team was naturally to sign in for the wormhole sniper rifle. Otherwise, why would he waste an opportunity to defend against any attack to save those 3 people? That was what he thought. After he became a desolate hunter, he would go to the ancient dragon battlefield. Those who could go to the ancient dragon battlefield were all above the level of a desolate hunter. If he had a wormhole sniper rifle, he wouldn't be able to easily kill his opponent from a few kilometers away without anyone noticing his location. Of course, now was not the time to sign in. Seeing that Mosher had blocked their surekill attack, the 4 level 9 desolate hunters turned to Mosher. They were shocked at first. However, when they felt Mosher's aura and realized that he was only a level 8 hunter, they were all furious. A mere level 8 hunter dared to stop them from killing the sniper. Although this level 8 hunter was very strange, they did not believe that this level 8 hunter could really fight against 4 level 9 desolate hunters. Thinking of this, the 4 of them were so angry that their eyes almost popped out. "Kid, you're courting death. I'll send you on your way." As they spoke, the energy weapons on their right arms once again condensed red light. It was also at this moment that Mosher had a thought. The ground of the entire city began to rumble and shake. And the shaking became more and more intense, several times stronger than an earthquake. The houses and buildings in the city collapsed one after another. "Oh no, there's an earthquake. Fly into the air. Retreat from the city." For a moment, whether it was the military or the bandits, they all shouted. At this moment, Kacha. A crack suddenly appeared on the ground. The crack was a kilometer long and more than 50 meters wide. The moment the crack opened, a figure instantly flew out. That figure appeared to be a human. However, he was skinny and had a pale face. He had a head of messy yellow hair. His eyes were sunken, and he was all skin and bones. Behind him was a long chain. Seeing this person appear, everyone was stunned. He came out from the ground. Could it be an almighty senior? Looking at his aura, I'm afraid he's far stronger than a level 8 desolate hunter. It could be a level 10 desolate hunter. Upon seeing this scene, the bandits and level 9 desolate hunters were also astonished. What the hell was this? Other than Mosher, there was only one other person who recognized him. Lu Shuming said in surprise, "Earth Fiend Puppet." Not only did he know about the Chasing Corpse Sect's 72 Earth Baleful Puppets, he had even seen them once before. Therefore, he recognized it at a glance. While everyone was still in shock, the Earth Puppet leaped in front of Mosher with a single step. Then he dragged the chain behind him over. Only then did everyone see that the chain behind him was connected to his neck. It was like a dog on a leash. But no one knew what was going on. How could such a terrifying existence be chained up? Who was the one who tied it up? Now that he was in front of Mosher, what did he want? From the looks of it, they didn't come with good intentions. All the bandits were shocked, but at the same time, they were secretly gloating. This terrifying existence seemed to be very unhappy with this kid. This kid was done for. At this moment, a scene that no one had expected occurred. After the terrifying existence that looked like a dead tree put away the chain, he suddenly knelt down on one knee in front of Mosher. Then he lowered his head, held up one end of the chain in his hand with both hands, and handed it to Mosher. All the bandits, all the warriors, Lu Shuming. Some of the people who were quick-witted instantly thought of a certain scene. What was the meaning of this? A marriage proposal? Mosher took the chain calmly. Then, he gently pinched the clasp on the terrifying existence's neck. Click, there was a soft sound. The chain fell to the ground. The terrifying existence immediately nodded gratefully at Mosher. Mosher stretched out his hand and pointed at the 4 level 9 desolate hunters. He said 3 words. "Big Yellow Bite." Upon receiving the order, the terrifying existence immediately turned around. With a leap, it instantly pounced on a level 9 Desolate Hunter. Seeing this, the level 9 Desolate Hunter was shocked. From the aura of this terrifying existence when it pounced, he felt that it was actually a level 10 Desolate Hunter. The level 9 Desolate Hunter hurriedly turned around and wanted to escape. However, under the pressure of the opponent's aura, the energy in his body couldn't circulate smoothly. His speed of escape suddenly slowed down a lot. He was directly pounced on by Big Yellow. Then, its right hand slashed across his dantian. The sharp nails of its right hand instantly pierced into the level 9 Desolate Hunter's dantian. No. The level 9 Desolate Hunter screamed. He immediately fell from the sky. Then, Big Yellow pounced 3 more times. The remaining 4 level 9 Desolate Hunters were pounced on and fell to the ground. Everyone who saw this scene was a little dumbfounded. For level 9 Desolate Hunters were pounced on one by this skinny guy. They didn't even have a chance to resist. What surprised them the most was that such a terrifying existence actually obeyed the orders of a mere level 8 Desolate Hunter. It was even ordered by the level 8 Desolate Hunter like a dog without a trace of complaint. What the hell was going on? Lu Shuming was also quite surprised. Emoshur actually got his hands on the earth puppet from the corpse village. Moreover, he remembered that the earth puppet could only be controlled by the strongest person in the corpse village. Moreover, the steps to control it were very complicated. If one was not careful during the time of control, it could even cause a backlash to the control system. But looking at Emoshur, he was completely treating the earth puppet like a dog. What Big Yellow biting? Only he could think of that. How did he do it? Moreover, Lu Shuming thought of a certain possibility. Since Emoshur could control one earth puppet, did that mean he could control the other 71 earth puppets as well? If that was the case, Emoshur would have 72 level 10 Desolate Hunters as his henchmen. One must know that even the Yuzhou military only had 50 level 10 Desolate Hunters. This brat was really unfathomable. At this time, the earth puppet had killed 4 level 9 Desolate Hunters in a row, but it didn't seem to be satisfied. Seeing this, Emoshur smiled faintly and said, "All the level 5 and level 6 Desolate Hunters are yours." The earth puppet nodded repeatedly. It seemed to be grateful. Then it turned around again and attacked the level 5 and level 6 Desolate Hunters among the bandits. In just a few minutes, it was back in front of Emoshur again. At this time, all the level 5 and level 6 Desolate Hunters among the bandits had become corpses. Emoshur nodded. Well done. Your work is done. Let's go." The earth puppet nodded again, as if to express its gratitude and respect to Emoshur. After retreating more than 10 meters, it jumped and dived back into the crevice. Chapter 369. The appearance of the earth puppet shattered everyone's worldview. Such a powerful existence was ordered around like a dog by Emoshur, a mere level 8 scavenger. What kind of F*King logic was this? Emoshur patted the rust on the chain on his hand and said to Lu Shuming, "I'm sorry, Commander Lu." Lu Shuming laughed and said, "Brother, you're really something. You can even get the earth puppet?" Emoshur said with an ashamed look on his face. "Sai, I'm ashamed. I've made a fool of myself." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Earth puppet? I've always heard that the earth puppet of the corpse village is very powerful. I didn't expect to be lucky enough to see it today. He even got the earth puppet of the corpse village. He's not simple. Those soldiers came over to congratulate Emoshur. Although the members of the 3 assassination teams didn't say anything, they remembered Emoshur's life-saving grace in their hearts. It wasn't until now that Emoshur had the time to say in his mind, "System, sign in for a special event." The system's voice quickly replied, "Frowny face sign in successful. Sign in event. Protect the military assassination team. Sign in reward." One wormhole sniper rifle. Emoshur took a look in his backpack. This sniper rifle looked similar to the one in the hands of the sniper. It was just that there were some improvements in various aspects such as performance. The sniper's sniper rifle was only experimental. Its maximum attack range was only 10 kilometers. However, M.O. Sher's sniper rifle had a maximum attack range of 1,000 kilometers. As long as there was a mark on the target, even if the target escaped 999 kilometers away, M.O. Sher could use the wormhole technology to instantly make the bullet cross the distance of 999 kilometers and hit the target. However, when he took a closer look at the wormhole sniper rifle, he was a little speechless. System, where are the bullets? The system's voice quickly sounded. Frowny face. Bullets need to be obtained by signing in. F***CK. M.O. Sher felt like he had been F***ked. There was no point in playing with a gun without bullets. However, bullets should be easier to obtain. As long as he returned to the military base and signed in next to the ammunition depot, he would be able to sign in and come out. At this moment, Lu Shuming was secretly glad that M.O. Sher had taken care of the enemy's high-level combatants. Originally, they had brought M.O. Sher out to broaden his horizons, but they did not expect that M.O. Sher would be the one to broaden their horizons. Fortunately, he had brought M.O. Sher with him. Otherwise, he would have suffered heavy losses today. Thinking of this, he quickly contacted the commander. Sir, there's no need to send reinforcements. M.O. Sher has already taken care of the enemy's high-end combat power. Hearing this, Commander Chi was slightly surprised. M.O. Sher? Lu Shuming nodded. Yes. Commander Chi was still a little surprised. However, he also knew that it was not convenient for him to say too much at this time. He only nodded and said, if that's the case, it's time to record M.O. Sher's achievement. Lu Shuming nodded. Yes. When M.O. Sher heard this, he did not take it to heart. What he cared about was not whether or not he would be rewarded. What he wanted was the actual benefits. However, the military could not give him too many actual benefits. After all, he had signed in for most of the things that the military could give him in the past month. After M.O. Sher had taken care of the enemy's high-end combat power, the rest was simple. The military completely crushed the enemy and ended the battle in just half an hour. Then it was time to clean up the scene. After cleaning up the scene, the military rested for a while in Nanyang City. During the break, a few soldiers joked. Old Nyo, didn't you say that you wanted to fight gang leader M.O. one-on-one? We're free now. The soldier who spoke made a pleased gesture. The rest of the people cheered. Old Nyo, go and fight one-on-one. I have high hopes for you. Old Nyo, you were very unconvinced before. Why should a mere hunter be valued so highly by the commander? Now your chance is here. The soldier called Old Nyo looked ashamed when he heard this. He laughed and scolded. You guys are sending me to my death. It's my bad luck to have comrades like you guys. Everyone laughed out loud. Old Nyo is scared. Old Nyo, a man who isn't even scared of the division commander and the commander, is actually scared today. This is the first time a girl has been scared. Old Nyo, it's my lifelong wish to see you admit defeat in this lifetime. I didn't expect it to happen so soon. Since Old Nyo had already lost his face, he might as well go all out. He straightened his neck and said, yes, he's scared. Why? Not convinced? If you're not convinced, you can also be scared. Everyone laughed again. As they spoke, a group of people from Nanyang City walked over. They all expressed their gratitude to the military. Lu Shuming shook his head and said, this is what we should do. After the pleasantries, a representative of the people pointed at the huge crack on the ground that was 1,000 meters long and asked, Commander, that guy won't come out again, right? As he spoke, he looked at M.O. Sher with lingering fear. Lu Shuming didn't know about this either. He turned to look at M.O. Sher. M.O. Sher nodded. Yes, he won't. Only then did the commoners relax. After resting for 2 hours, the team rushed to the next bandit stronghold. In the next 2 days, the army eliminated 3 more groups of bandits. In total, they killed more than 1,000 bandits. This was already the first time he had killed so many bandits in the history of the battle. When the remaining bandits received the news, they all retreated into the wilderness. This bandit suppression operation could be said to be the most successful in history. However, in Lu Shuming's opinion, it was still not considered a success. In fact, it was a failure. This was because they had mobilized the most people this time. Their goal was to catch all the bandits in one fell swoop. However, they didn't expect these bandits to be so cunning. They immediately retreated into the wilderness at the slightest sign of trouble. After this wave of bandit suppression was over, they would come out again to cause trouble. A division commander beside Lu Shuming asked, "Commander, what should we do now?" Lu Shuming pondered for a moment and said, "Since we came out once, we must think of a way to catch all of them in one fell swoop. However, these bandits have entered the wilderness now. No one is more familiar with the wilderness than they are. If we continue to chase after them, the number of casualties will increase greatly." When the division commander heard this, he said, "Commander, we can actually send Phantom to investigate and figure out the situation in the wilderness. Then, we can decide on a battle plan and catch all of them in one fell swoop." Lu Shuming pondered for a moment again and called a few other higher-ups over. He asked for their opinions. In the end, everyone agreed to the division commander's suggestion. Lu Shuming immediately called Phantom over. Chapter 370. Soon, Ghastly Shadow arrived. Ever since Mo Shi entered the military base, he had been hearing people talking about Ghastly Shadow. Today, he finally saw him in person. In Mo Shi's imagination, Ghastly Shadow should be a thin and small person dressed in black, looking like a ghost. However, to his surprise, Ghastly Shadow was not thin and small. Instead, he was a muscular man who was 1.8 meters tall. His face was full of whiskers, big and rough, carefree. It formed a strong contrast with his name. According to Lu Shuming, Ghastly Shadow was an extremely special existence. After he became a desolate hunter, he awakened 2 innate skills. This was the only one in history. His 2 innate skills, one was teleportation, the other was invisibility. Every time he teleported, he could teleport more than 50 kilometers away. It was faster than any aircraft. And the trapping skill allowed him to avoid most equipment and psychokinesis detection. Therefore, the military specially recruited him to carry out all kinds of reconnaissance missions. Normally, he lived among the ordinary warriors, and he looked no different from an ordinary warrior. When he was needed, he would transform into a ghastly shadow to carry out all kinds of difficult reconnaissance missions. After receiving the order, Ghastly Shadow chuckled and said, "It's finally my turn." The division commander said seriously, "Ghastly Shadow, this is the army? Be serious." Ghastly Shadow chuckled, gave the division commander and Lu Shuming a very casual military salute, and said, "Yes, I promise to complete the mission." He looked at the division commander and Lu Shuming, especially at Mo Shi. There was a hint of provocation in his eyes. Then he disappeared in an instant. Mo Shi understood what he meant. When Mo Shi saved the 3 assassination team members, he used some kind of teleportation skill. As the saying goes, people of the same trade are enemies. Ghastly Shadow was most proud of his invisibility and teleportation ability. Now that he saw that Mo Shi could teleport, he was naturally dissatisfied. Lu Shuming naturally saw Ghastly Shadow's provocative eyes. After he left, he said to Mo Shi, "Don't bother with him. He's just like that. He doesn't have any bad intentions." Mo Shi didn't care about this. He shrugged and said, "Don't worry, Commander Lu. I'm a gang leader after all. If you don't even have this bit of magnanimity, how can you convince the masses?" His words dispelled the slightly awkward atmosphere from before. In Mo Shi's heart, he did not take that ghost shadow seriously at all. It was like an amateur player challenging a professional player. If a pro player even glanced at you, it would be considered a loss. The group rested in a small city on the edge of the wilderness. 2 days later, Spirit Shadow suddenly appeared in front of everyone. When everyone saw the ghost shadow appear, they were all overjoyed. "I'm back! I'm back! I've heard that the wilderness is huge, covering an area of more than 100,000 square kilometers. Ghost Shadow completed his investigation in just 2 days, which is really surprising." "Nonsense, why else would it be called Ghost Shadow?" Gue Ying naturally heard the discussions of the crowd. Naturally, he was very happy in his heart. He reported to Commander Lu. "Commander, I've already scouted all the strongholds of the bandits in the wilderness. I've also drawn all the topographic maps in the wilderness into three-dimensional maps." As he spoke, he turned on his multifunctional watch. A three-dimensional map was immediately projected on the multifunctional watch. As expected, the map was very detailed. Not only were all the topographic maps very clear, but the locations of the strongholds, the number of people in the strongholds, and the strength of the strongest person were also clearly marked. Commander Lu nodded. "Well, you've worked hard. Go and rest first." "Hee, okay." Guiying chuckled and turned to leave. However, when he passed by Mo, he once again showed a provocative look. He even raised his chin at Mo. The hearts of the surrounding people tightened slightly as they looked at Mo. However, they saw that Mo still acted as if he didn't see it. This made Guiying even more unhappy. He directly said, "You can teleport too. Want to compete?" Mo smiled and said, "No." Guiying saw that Mo didn't dare to accept the challenge. As if he had won, he raised his head and left with satisfaction. Lu Shuming looked at Mo. He saw that Mo still didn't have a trace of anger. He secretly nodded in his heart. In the face of the other party's many challenges, he wasn't angry at all, but he wasn't afraid at all. He had a firm grasp of the situation. Next, the military formulated a detailed battle plan according to the map that Guiying had scouted. That evening, they set off into the wilderness. In the middle of the night, they had already uprooted the first stronghold. At dawn, they had already uprooted 2 strongholds. Then, they directly repaired them locally. In the next 2 nights, they uprooted 5 strongholds in a row. These bandits would hide in the wilderness every time they encountered a bandit suppression in the past. The military didn't know much about the wilderness, so they wouldn't enter at all. Therefore, they didn't set up any defenses around the strongholds, which was why so many strongholds were easily uprooted. Moreover, in the wilderness there weren't as many people as in the city. In addition, the military acted at night. Before uprooting the strongholds, they used signal-blocking devices. The signals within dozens of kilometers were blocked. Therefore, after the bandits in a stronghold were attacked, they couldn't contact other strongholds at all. That was why so many strongholds were uprooted in a row. At the same time, with so many strongholds uprooted, Guiying also became more and more arrogant. In his opinion, the reason why the military could be so successful was because of him. Soon, there were only 3 strongholds left. At this time, the bandits in these 3 strongholds had already realized that something was wrong. For 3 consecutive days, they couldn't contact other strongholds. At first, they thought that the signal in the wilderness was bad. After all, such a situation often happened in the past. However, not even a trace of signal in 3 days was something that had never happened before. They finally realized that something was wrong. Therefore, the 3 strongholds gathered. The total number of people reached more than 2,000. The bandit leader was a handsome young man named Shirmashwan. Not only did he have a handsome face, but he also had a scholarly aura. No one would associate him with the bandit leader. However, such a person was a bandit leader who burned, killed, robbed, committed all kinds of crimes, and killed people like scything flax. He stood on a huge rock and looked at the 2,000 bandits below. Just now, someone had reported that they had sent people to other strongholds. However, none of the people sent had returned. "Boss, what do we do at 2 o'clock? Boss, we have no way out." "Fight them." The surrounding bandits were all very agitated. Some were frightened, some were worried, and some were excited. The bandit leader Shirmashwan looked at the sky in the distance. A mass of dark clouds had already floated up from there. After a moment, he sighed for no reason. The rainy season is coming. Chapter 371. Shirmashwan, the leader of the bandits, did not think of any countermeasures in the face of a great enemy. Instead, he looked at the dark clouds that had just appeared in the distant sky. He sighed slowly. "The rainy season is here." A bandit next to him asked doubtfully, "Boss, do you mean?" Shirmashwan continued with a sigh, "It's the season to spit again." The bandit next to him was speechless. Moshwan looked at it for a moment and said, "Let's move." The bandit next to him said doubtfully, "But boss, all our strongholds have been destroyed except for this one. Where can we move these 2,000 people?" Moshwan said, "The Thousand Leaves Valley." The bandit's expression changed immediately. "Boss." Moshwan looked away from the dark clouds in the sky and looked at the bandit. The bandit hurriedly took back his words halfway through his sentence. He lowered his head and said, "Yes, boss." Then he turned his head and looked at the bandits below. He said, "Move to the Thousand Leaves Valley." Upon hearing this, the expressions of the bandits all changed. They did not seem to believe that their boss would say such a thing. Everyone looked at the bandit leader, Moshwan, as if to verify the authenticity of his words. Moshwan looked at all the bandits and only said one sentence, "Follow me if you don't want to die." As he spoke, he leaped onto the giant rock and went into the depths of the forest. Although the rest of the bandits were terrified, they did not dare to disobey their boss since he had already spoken. They could only follow him quickly. Mosher followed the bandit suppression army to the last stronghold. However, he found that it was already empty. Everyone searched around, but they couldn't find a single bandit. "Sir, it seems that they have escaped," a division commander said. Lu Shuming frowned slightly. "Their last 3 strongholds combined into one. There are about 2,000 people. And these 2,000 people are the main fighting force of the bandits. If we don't eliminate them, they will immediately recover once we leave." A division commander said, "Sir, why don't we send Phantom to investigate again and find their location before we go and eliminate them?" Lu Shuming pondered for a moment and nodded. "All right." Then he summoned Ghostly Shadow once again. After assigning the mission, he reminded them. Their bandit leader, Moshwan, isn't easy to deal with. After you've investigated the situation, don't act blindly without thinking. Come back and report immediately. Guaying nodded. "Understood, Sir Commander. Leave it to me. No problem." Then he glanced at Mosher. But this time, the provocation was much less obvious. From his point of view, Mosher had already admitted defeat in front of him last time. Therefore, there was no longer any value in provoking him. In the next moment, his figure disappeared. This time, it only took him 2 hours to return to the camp. He reported the situation to Commander Lu Shuming. They fled into a valley in the depths of the wilderness. Then, a 3-dimensional map of the valley was displayed. Commander Lu Shuming called a few division commanders over for a discussion. From the map, the terrain of this valley was not complicated. In the valley, there was nothing special except for a small river that was only 2 meters wide. If one had to point out something special, it would be the strange rocks on both sides of the valley. These rocks were basically spherical. It looked as if someone had specially pasted these hemispherical rocks on the stone walls on both sides of the valley thousands of years ago. However, these hemispherical rocks had been severely weathered and did not seem to be dangerous. After a discussion, a group of high-ranking military officials decided to continue the pursuit. So everyone continued the pursuit. Not long after, it started to drizzle. The rain would affect the performance of the hoverboard shoes, so the military chose to walk. And Guaying had already gone to investigate again. Whether those bandits left the valley or found a place to hide in the valley, Guaying would know clearly. When the military arrived, they could directly formulate a battle plan based on Guaying's investigation. Therefore, they did not need to rush. So, everyone put away their hoverboard shoes and switched to walking. After another 2 hours, when they reached the entrance of the valley, the rain was getting heavier. Lu Shuming asked, "Is there a possibility of a flash flood here?" An expert next to him replied, "It hasn't rained yet. It just rained not long ago, so the possibility of a flash flood is very low. According to the map, there are no traces of a flash flood here before. Moreover, the bottom of the valley is hundreds of meters wide. Even if a flash flood really happens, the impact will not be great. And we still have the hoverboard shoes." Hearing this, Lu Shuming nodded. At this moment, Guaying had also returned. He opened the map, pointed to a crack in the valley, and said, "All the bandits have entered this crack. Lu Shuming gathered everyone again. After a short discussion, they formulated a battle plan. Lu Shuming reminded everyone, "These 2,000 people have always been the main force of the bandits. Among them, there are more than 10 level 5 desolate hunters. There are 2 level 8 desolate hunters. And we can't rule out the possibility of them using the potion that increases their strength. So everyone must be mentally prepared." "Yes. Yes." Everyone responded. Lu Shuming turned to Mo Shi and said, "Brother, if another level 9 desolate hunter appears later, I'm afraid your earth puppet will have to fight." Mo Shi nodded. "No problem." Lu Shuming said, "They must have hidden sentries. Guiying, investigate their hidden sentries. Once you find them, assassinate them." Guiying chuckled and said, "It's fine." As he spoke, his figure flashed and disappeared. Mo Shi detected that when Guiying appeared, he was already behind a hidden sentry 5 kilometers away. His left hand covered the hidden sentry's mouth, and the genetic weapon on his right arm moved slightly, piercing into that person's body. At this moment, that person was unable to resist at all. Then he flashed again, and a moment later, another hidden sentry was eliminated. In a short 5 minutes, more than 10 hidden sentries were eliminated. Although Mo Shi did not like this person's personality, he had to admit that he was quite good at assassinating people. Eliminating these hidden sentries was done cleanly without any sloppiness. After eliminating all the hidden sentries, the military began to move towards the center of the valley. At this moment, the rain was getting heavier. The river water had already reached the riverbank. However, no one cared. After all, the riverbank was a few hundred meters wide. Even if the river water was tens of times bigger, it would not affect them at all. After half an hour, they had reached the center of the valley. At this moment, the river water was getting bigger. The river water was a few meters wider. The murky river water was even murkier than the yellow river that Mo Shi had seen in his previous life. Chapter 372. The muddy river water was even more muddy than the yellow river that Mo Shi had seen in his previous life. However, no one cared. From their current position, they could see a huge crack on the stone wall on the left side of the valley. It was about 50 meters high. The crack was more than 5 meters wide and more than 30 meters high. According to the previous battle plan, they would first use a miniature drone to investigate. After determining the enemy's position, they would first attack with a flash bomb. After blinding these people, the soldiers would then charge in. At this moment, the keyboard player was controlling the miniature drone and flying into the cave. The miniature drone was only the size of a mosquito. There were no weapons on it, only 4 miniature pinhole cameras. It could capture the surrounding situation 360 degrees without any corners. Soon, the miniature drone had already flown into the cave. Soon, more than 20 bandits were found. The miniature drone continued to fly inside. The cave inside was very big. The inside of the big cave was like a huge square. Moreover, there were many holes of various sizes on the stone wall inside the cave. No one knew where these holes led to. Seeing this, Lu Shuming's brows were already furrowed. Once they rushed in, these bandits would only need to crawl into these holes, and it would be very difficult for them to catch them all in one go. After Mo Shi understood the situation, he already had an idea in his mind. He asked Lu Shuming, "When the assassination team's sniper rifle determines the coordinates, can they also manually determine the coordinates?" Lu Shuming nodded. The wormhole sniper rifle has 2 ways to determine the coordinates. The first is automatic marking. As long as the target is covered by the scope, the target will be automatically marked. The second is manual guidance. Let the teammates use the guidance device that comes with the wormhole sniper rifle to determine a mark on the target. This way, even if the sniper has no vision, he can still kill the target. Mo Shi nodded. "That's easy. We can let Phantom teleport in, mark the bandit leader, and assassinate him. Then, we can use the same method to assassinate their higher-ups one by one. In this way, the bandits will either choose to surrender in panic or be killed by the sniper one by one." Lu Shuming nodded. "Well, that's a good idea. Let's get Phantom here." Very quickly, Spirit Shadow was called out. However, when he heard Emoshur's plan, he immediately exploded. You're sending me to my death. Every time I teleport, there's a cooldown of at least 3 seconds. How do you think I'm going to dodge the attacks of those bandits around me in these 3 seconds? Chief, I don't think this guy has any good intentions. Or maybe he's jealous of my ability and wants me to die. Hearing this, Lu Shuming shook his head and said, Emoshur is not that kind of person. Emoshur shook his head helplessly. So you can't do it. It seems that I have overestimated you. The ghostly figure glared at Emoshur. You want to provoke me? I won't fall for it. You can do it? If you can really do it, I will kowtow to you on the spot. When Emoshur heard this, he didn't do anything about it. He said to the sniper next to him, Give me the homing device. Hearing this, the sniper asked, Brother Emo, you want to go in? This is too dangerous. Emoshur said, Just give it to me. The sniper's life was saved by Emoshur, so he was thinking for Emoshur. Seeing that Emoshur was determined to go in, he couldn't stop him. He looked at Lu Shuming next to him. Lu Shuming asked Emoshur, Are you confident? Emoshur smiled and said, Not very confident, 90%. Lu Shuming was speechless. Everyone around was also speechless. The ghostly figure sneered, Tisk, 90%. Why don't you brag that it's 100%? Do you really think? Emoshur ignored him and said to Lu Shuming, Commander Lu, pull out the cold explosive immediately. Then he said to the sniper next to him, Open the connector of the sniper rifle. After dropping the bomb, I will go in immediately. Seeing that Emoshur was so determined, Lu Shuming didn't say anything else. Soon, he ordered someone to drop the bomb. The flash bomb had 2 functions. One type of grenade had a very strong lethality, and its lethality and lethality radius were much greater than that of an ordinary grenade. The other was a flash effect. When it exploded, it would form a strong light that could temporarily blind the enemy. Soon, more than 50 soldiers jumped to the entrance of the cave. They took out their flash bombs and threw them into the cave. However, just as the flash bombs were thrown into the cave, dozens of energy blasted out. Boom, 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 boom. All the crossfire bombs exploded not long after they left the hands of the soldiers. These soldiers were immediately sent flying backward. They fell to the ground. Fortunately, every bombardier had a special protective gear. Although they were slightly injured, they wouldn't be killed by the flash bombs they threw. Several division commanders shook their heads. It seems that they were prepared. The ghostly figure next to him made a tisk sound again. You don't take your own life, but don't you take the lives of your comrades as well? Emoshur ignored him and said to the sniper next to him, Get ready to shoot. Seeing this, Lu Shuming quickly stopped him. There are no flash bombs. It's too dangerous for you to go in like this. However, before he could finish speaking, Emoshur's figure had already disappeared. Seeing this, Lu Shuming and the others quickly looked at the screen in front of the keyboard player. On the screen, they saw Emoshur's figure appear in the cave in an instant. The homing device in his hand was aimed at a high-ranking bandit. The sniper's reaction was also very fast. After the guide made a mark on the head of the high-ranking bandit, the cross in the scope of the sniper rifle suddenly turned red. Seeing this, the sniper quickly pulled the trigger. Bang! A loud sound was heard. After the bullet flew 5 meters out of the muzzle, it quickly turned into a blue and white outline and then disappeared. The next moment, on the screen, the head of the bandit exploded instantly. Blood splattered everywhere. The faces and bodies of the surrounding bandits were covered in blood. At this time, Emoshur had already aimed the homing device at another bandit. Bang! Another loud sound was heard. The head of the bandit leader also exploded in an instant. It was not until now that the bandits finally reacted. Kill him! Someone roared. At the same time, several beams of energy were already attacking Emoshur. Emoshur's figure flashed, but he had already disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already behind the stone wall on the other side. The homing device was again aimed at another bandit. On the homing device, An invisible beam of light shot out and marked the body of a bandit. At the same time, Emoshur's figure flashed again and he disappeared. Just as he disappeared, several bursts of energy were already heading towards him. At the same time, bang, the head of the bandit had already exploded. This scene caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. And the ghostly figure next to Emoshur, who was extremely dissatisfied with him, also had a blank expression at this time. Could teleportation be done like this? Didn't it need a cooldown? Chapter 373. Emoshur kept flashing in the cave. Every time he flashed, a high-ranking bandit would die. In fact, he had also tried to mark the bandit leader Shur Moshwan. However, Shur Moshwan was very cunning. When he tried to mark Shur Moshwan would always dodge at the fastest speed. After all, Shur Moshwan was a level 8 desolate hunter. His speed was also very fast. Emoshur did not persist. He would mark the bandit leader who was the closest and most convenient to him. This caused all the bandits in the cave to look extremely terrified. After all, no one knew if they would be the next one. Everyone outside the cave was very surprised. As far as they knew, although some people could teleport, teleportation required energy. Not to mention other things, just using the wormhole teleportation technology consumed a lot of energy. Otherwise, the wormhole teleportation device would not be so precious. But now, Emoshur only stopped for a second every time he teleported. It was as if he could teleport infinitely. This kind of teleportation ability was simply too heaven-defying. As for Spirit Shadow, he was in a daze. He could not come back to his senses for a long time. As a desolate hunter with the talent of teleportation, he understood teleportation the best. He was the only one who knew how much energy and physical strength it took to teleport. He clearly knew that teleportation was really a physical activity. If he only had energy and did not have physical strength, he would not be able to do it. But now, Emoshur was teleporting as if he was just playing. In his opinion, this was truly inconceivable. At least, he would never be able to reach this level in his lifetime. At the same time, he recalled that he had provoked Emoshur several times before. Emoshur did not respond. At that time, he had thought that Emoshur was scared. Only now did he realize that Emoshur was not a coward. It was because he did not care to be calculative with him. When he thought of this, he only felt a kind of feeling called shame floating in his heart. Outside the cave, bang, 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 the loud sounds of sniper rifles could be heard continuously. Inside the cave, bang, 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 the muffled sounds of heads exploding could be heard continuously. All the bandits were terrified. Seeing this, the bandit leader Shur Moshwan immediately gave the order. Kill him! Hearing their boss's order, the group of bandits finally came to their senses. They all condensed their genetic weapons and pounced toward Emoshur. However, Emoshur's teleportation speed was extremely fast. Moreover, it was erratic and hard to grasp. No one could get close to Emoshur. Seeing this, the group of bandits were surprised, but they also became ferocious. One after another, they condensed their energy weapons and bombarded Emoshur. Emoshur's figure flickered, appearing at the top of the cave in an instant. A cold smile appeared on Zhang Xian's face. Shua! Something spilled out of his backpack. In the next moment, Emoshur's figure disappeared. When the bandits in the cave saw the things that Emoshur had sprinkled down, they all felt their scalps go numb. Those things turned out to be all flash bombs. There were hundreds of them. Boom, 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 these hundreds of grenades directly exploded in the cave. The light of the fire filled the entire huge cave. The shockwave slammed all the people below level 5 desolate hunters hard against the wall, over and over again. At this time, Emoshur had already teleported out of the cave. Everyone saw the scene in the cave through the screen, and all of them widened their eyes. After a while, someone patted Emoshur on the shoulder. Brother, you're really something. Amazing. With an assaulter like you, wouldn't it be great to fight a battle? The ghost looked at Emoshur and then at himself. Once again, he was too ashamed to show his face. The serious expression on Lu Shuming's face also lessened a little. At this time, in the cave, corpses were strewn everywhere, broken limbs and mutilated bodies. It was a mess. Just a few hundred flash bombs had directly eliminated 80% of the bandits. This was simply impossible in the past. After all, bandits who had reached the level of desolate hunters could use energy to detonate flash bombs in advance. Flash bombs could not cause any substantial damage to them at all. But this time, because the flash bombs came so quickly and directly, it was like a rain of bullets falling from the sky. They were completely defenseless. The bandit leader Sher Moshwan's eyes were also temporarily blinded by the flashes. He roared, "Everyone, retreat into the surrounding passageways." After that, he touched the stone wall on the right and fled into the depths of the passageway. The remaining 400 or so bandits who could still move also touched the stone wall and fled into the surrounding small caves. Outside the cave, Lu Shuming saw this and was about to order everyone to kill their way into the cave and eliminate the bandits. But at this moment, in the direction of the river in front of them, there was a sudden rumbling sound. Rumble, rumble, it sounded like thousands of horses galloping. The psychic grandmaster in the army scanned with his psychic power, and his expression changed slightly. He said to Lu Shuming, "Chief, the cave has exploded. Quick, let the soldiers activate their flying skateboards and fly to the mountains on both sides." Lu Shuming glanced at the huge crack not far away and asked, "Can it flood that far?" The psychic grandmaster nodded. Yes. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Such a small river could erupt with a flood that was hundreds of meters high. This was really too strange. But at this moment, there was no time to dwell on it. Lu Shuming immediately ordered, "Everyone, retreat to the mountains on both sides." At this time, the rain was getting heavier, and the performance of the flying skateboards was far worse than usual. Their speed was greatly reduced, and their flying stability was also greatly reduced. If they did not avoid it in advance, they might be washed away by the mountain flood. With the strength of these soldiers, a mere mountain flood could not kill them at all. But after all, it was not a good thing, so they should avoid it as much as possible. So these 2,000 soldiers activated their flying skateboards and flew shakily to the mountains on both sides. Just less than 2 minutes after everyone had retreated to the mountains. Rumble, rumble, everyone could already see the wave. A wave that was more than 100 meters high. That desolate hunter was not exaggerating at all. The wave that was more than 100 meters high rumbled through the valley like a tsunami. It was like a berserk beast, swallowing everything in the cave. Crack, crack. All the trees were broken under the mountain flood. Even the rocks that rolled down from the valley were being pushed forward by the force of the impact. The group of soldiers could be considered as people who had seen big scenes before. But at this time, when they saw the mountain flood, they were all secretly shocked. No one had seen such a violent mountain flood. Soon, the mountain flood flooded the huge crack from before. Sher Moshwan was secretly glad that he did not send the soldiers in just now. Otherwise, this battle would have been very difficult for him. However, his rejoicing did not last long. Soon, his expression changed, because the rocks on both sides of the valley moved. Chapter 374. The soldiers stepped on their flying skateboards and flew to the mountains on both sides of the valley to avoid the flood. But at this moment, the psychic grandmaster in the army felt that something was wrong. He suddenly turned his head and looked at a mountain rock. He saw a huge rock mountain with a diameter of more than 10 meters. When it was half submerged by the flood, it suddenly began to move. Its surface kept trembling and slowly moved to the sides. Then a pair of wings stretched out from inside. The pair of wings grew with the wind and soon reached a width of more than 20 meters. On the wings there were 2 pairs of sharp claws. The next moment, it flapped its wings and flew into the air. Only then did everyone realize that it was not a rock. It was a desolate beast that had been sticking to the stone wall. And there were tens of thousands of such rocks on the stone walls on both sides of the valley. Previously, they only thought that the stone walls of the valley were strange. Now, everyone realized that there were tens of thousands of desolate beasts. These desolate beasts had been in a dormant state before. and after countless years, their internal organs seemed to have been petrified. Therefore, even a telekinesis grandmaster could not detect their existence. Now that they had absorbed the flood, their bodies slowly recovered. Everyone in the army had never heard of such a strange, desolate beast. Mosher was also very surprised. How could there be such a desolate beast? At this moment, on the stone walls on both sides of the valley, the tens of thousands of stone walls seemed to have just woken up and were stretching. They spread their wings and shook quickly. The next moment, these desolate beasts revealed their ferocious faces. The head of each desolate beast was wrapped by 4 sharp fangs. The head inside the fangs was like a mantis with an inverted triangular shape. On this inverted triangular head, there were 2 tentacles that were more than a meter long. At the tip of each tentacle there was an eye. The tentacles could extend out of the fangs and observe the surrounding movements. Every one of them was a level 1 mutated desolate beast. There were definitely no less than 50,000 level 1 mutated desolate beasts here. And this was only what could be seen so far. In the river that could not be seen up and down, no one knew how many more of these mutated desolate beasts there were. At this moment, the keyboard player said, "Found it! 7-star ladle mantis." Everyone was confused when they heard this. What kind of name is that? I've never heard of it. The keyboard player stared at the virtual screen and kept talking. The 7-star ladle mantis is a desolate beast from 10,000 years ago. When there was a lack of water, they would go into hibernation. After hibernating for 10,000 years, when there was enough water, it would not awaken again. It's the same as the ancient virus hidden in the glaciers. Lu Shuming asked, "Characteristics?" The keyboard player said, "Since these 7-star ladle mantises came from ancient times, they carry ancient viruses. No one knew what kind of changes the virus would undergo after encountering the current environment. So be careful." At this point, the keyboard player raised his head to look at Lu Shuming, and his voice became softer and softer. This was because the little information that was found in the database was completely useless. The 7-star ladle mantis had only appeared 5 times in the history of the Flaming Dawn continent. Therefore, there was very little research on these desolate beasts. Naturally, there was very little information in the database. Rain continued to flow down Lu Shuming's chiseled face. With a serious expression, he said, "Don't act rashly for now. Towards any desolate beast that he did not understand, one must never turn around and flee." This was because 90% of desolate beasts would subconsciously chase after living creatures when they encountered them fleeing. On the other hand, if you did not flee, they would reconsider. Sometimes they would even turn around and leave. However, the one they encountered this time belonged to the latter category. The first 7-star ladle mantis that woke up extended its eyes out of its 4 fangs and looked around. Soon, it locked onto the warriors on the mountain top. Squeak, 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 squeak. Its 4 fangs kept trembling, and it let out a sharp, ear-piercing cry. Then, it flapped its wings and flew towards the mountain top. Seeing this, Lu Shuming frowned. With his experience, if he killed this 7-star ladle mantis now, it would definitely trigger the other 7-star ladle mantis's ferocity. Then, they would definitely not be able to escape death. And if he did not kill this 7-star ladle mantis, he would have to watch it kill a few warriors. With his military blood, he naturally could not do that. At this point, he did not have the luxury of hesitation. He ordered, "Destroy it!" A soldier at the side immediately activated his genetic martial art and jumped behind the 7-star ladle mantis. The genetic martial art ruthlessly pierced into the 7-star ladle mantis's body. Fresh blood spurted out. Along with the heavy rain, blood splattered everywhere. It was also at this moment that the other 7-star ladle mantises seemed to have sensed the death of their comrades. Their wings trembled violently, and their mouths let out high-frequency cries. Gee. Then, these tens of thousands of 7-star ladle mantises all flapped their wings and flew towards the warriors. Looking down from the sky, the 7-star ladle mantises in the entire valley were like a blood-red tide, surrounding the warriors. The performance of the flying skateboards on these warriors' feet was greatly reduced in the rain, and their flying speed was also greatly reduced. With such a speed, it was impossible for them to escape. Fortunately, there was a dense forest on the mountaintop below. Lu Shuming's expression changed, and he immediately ordered, "Everyone, land and enter the forest." The warriors quickly landed and hid in the surrounding forest. However, when the warriors entered the forest, the surrounding blood-red tide also flooded towards the forest. Wherever they passed, trees that would require 2 to 3 people to hug were turned into powder in an extremely short period of time. It seemed that the entire forest would be engulfed in a few minutes. Moreover, above the valley in the distance, there were more and more 7-star ladle mantises flying towards them. A thought flashed through Lu Shuming's mind. It's over. Although as a soldier, as one of the more than 2,000 people, he should not have such a thought in his mind. However, his rationality told him that it was over. Even if they encountered a normal beast tide, the more than 2,000 of them would not be able to withstand it. Moreover, these were 7-star ladle mantises, which were equivalent to level 1 mutated wild beasts. Even if they could kill 10,000 or 20,000 beasts with only 2,000 people, could they kill 50,000 beasts? What about 100,000? Even so, he could not show the slightest bit of despair. His eyes flashed like lightning. He shouted, "Everyone listen up. Take out your genetic weapons and kill these sons of B***cheese for me." All the soldiers had already condensed their genetic weapons and were waiting for Lu Shuming's order. Now that they received the order, all the soldiers let out beast-like roars from their throats. Kill, die, F***CKU. Chapter 375. Under Lu Shuming's command, the soldiers fought with all their might. Puff, puff, puff. The bodies of the 7-star ladle mantises were pierced one by one. Boom, boom, boom. Explosive grenades exploded one after another. Swish, 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 blood splattered everywhere. Squeak, squeak, squeak. A series of cries of agony could be heard. In just a few moments, the surrounding mountains were dyed red with blood. However, there were too many 7-star ladle mantises. They were like red clouds that covered the sky. The energy and stamina of the soldiers were limited. If this continued, the soldiers would be wiped out in at most 20 minutes. Lu Shuming looked at this scene and felt a little regretful. Although he was going to die, it was not a pity. It was a pity for these 2,000 soldiers. He was the one who led them closer to death. He was a sinner. He sighed in his heart and contacted the commander. After taking a deep breath, his voice returned to normal. "Commander, we encountered a beast tide. I'm afraid we can't go back." Commander Chi's expression was extremely solemn, but he said nothing. It was too late to send reinforcements now. It would take at least 3 days for reinforcements to arrive at the Thousand-Leaf Valley. By then, not even their bones would be left. Lu Shuming continued, "Commander, there are probably more than 1,200 bandits. The bandit leader, Shir Moshwan, has not been killed. I did not complete the mission." Commander Chi's expression was still solemn. Commander, the last sentence is something I want to say to you personally. If there is an afterlife, I will still be your subordinate. Commander Chi's eyes flashed when he heard this. He nodded solemnly. After Lu Shuming finished speaking, he was silent for 2 seconds. Then he hung up the communication. Then he condensed a genetic weapon. He charged forward. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky without any warning. He was dressed in black and had a delicate face. A pair of blood-red wings behind him emitted a blood-red glimmer in the rain. Even among the blood-red desolate beasts, he was so eye-catching. This person was none other than Mo Shur. When the soldiers saw this, they were all shocked. What was Mo Shur trying to do? The tens of thousands of 7-star ladle mantises instantly became ferocious when they saw Mo Shur suddenly appear. Squeaking, it swooped down on Mo Shur. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. The figure was 800 meters long. Its 800-meter long body wriggled like a dragon. There were several barbs on its ferocious head. Within the barbs, there were two huge bulges, as if something would grow out of them at any time. On the back, there were triangular ridges that looked like sharp triangular blades. Its entire body was covered in black scales. For thick claws, each as thick as a giant tree. As soon as it appeared, the long way on its body quickly spread out. The 7-star ladle mantises that were pouncing over immediately retracted their wings. He fell directly from the sky. They flapped their wings with all their might to prevent themselves from falling into the flood below. Instead, they landed on the mountain peaks on both sides of the valley. Then, he hurriedly lowered his head and didn't dare to move. The beast tied in the sky that looked like red rain all landed on the mountain peaks on both sides of the valley. The mountains on both sides looked as if they had been painted red by a huge paintbrush. Those soldiers were originally planning to fight to the death. At this moment, they suddenly saw the surrounding beasts tied land one after another and lie on the ground, not daring to move. They were all stunned. They looked at the sky. When they saw the huge desolate beast, they were all shocked. They looked at this huge mutated desolate beast and actually felt a sense of fear. It wasn't that they hadn't seen powerful mutated desolate beasts before. They had even seen many super mutated desolate beasts. However, this mutated desolate beast gave people a very strange feeling. It was as if it had already been the ruler of the earth in ancient times. It had traveled through tens of millions of years and appeared here. It made people involuntarily want to revere it and worship it. In the sky, the sea dragon clone opened its mouth and let out a dragon roar that seemed to have traveled through tens of millions of years. Roar, roar. In the next moment, thousands of blood-red vines shot out from the sea dragon clone's body. These red vines looked very soft, but they could instantly pierce through the bodies of these 7-star ladle mantises like steel bars. Puff, 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 puff. The sanguisurincus pierced into their bodies and quickly absorbed the sanguisurincus in their bodies. Within a few seconds, the blood in their bodies was completely sucked dry and they turned into mummified corpses. The sea dragon clone retracted the sanguisurincus and shot at another group of 7-star ladle mantises. Every time the sanguisurincus shot out, at least thousands of 7-star ladle mantises turned into mummified corpses. Within a short minute, a large piece of empty land was cleared out on the surrounding hills. And those 7-star ladle mantises, except for trembling out of fear, didn't resist at all. They didn't even have the intention to run away. This made the eyes of the soldiers widen. What was going on? Lu Shuming shifted his gaze from the sea dragon clone to Emoshur. What kind of person was this guy? More than 2 months ago, the mutated desolate beast he had summoned was already shocking enough. And now, 2 months later, the mutated desolate beast he had summoned was even more unbelievable. With the power of a wild beast, he intimidated thousands of wild beasts. And all the mutated wild beasts didn't even dare to have the thought of resisting. He had thought highly of him, but now it seemed that he still underestimated him. The potential he showed and the speed of his growth were far beyond his expectations. Previously, he thought that it would take at least 10 or 20 years for him to grow. But now, it seemed that he had grown to the point where even he had to look up to him. Not to mention other things. Just this mutated wild beast was beyond his imagination. Previously, he thought that after he grew up, he would be like Han Jiansheng, who could freeze 16 provinces with one sword. Now it seemed that his achievements might far surpass Han Jiansheng. Just as everyone was shocked and surprised, the sea dragon clone kept absorbing the blood of these 7-star ladle mantises. The 7-star ladle mantises fell down in droves. At the same time, the system notifications kept ringing in Emoshur's mind. Frowny face evolution points gained plus 120,000. Evolution points gained plus 150,000. Evolution points gained plus 90,000. In the end, the hundreds of thousands of wild beasts were exterminated by the sea dragon clone. A single wild beast had killed hundreds of thousands of wild beasts. In the past, this was simply impossible. But Emoshur's sea dragon clone had done it. At this time, the rain finally lessened. The soldiers looked through the rain and saw the dried corpses that covered the mountains. Each and every one of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 376. All the soldiers were shocked by the power of the Sea Dragon Avatar. At the same time, they were grateful to Emoshur for summoning the Sea Dragon Avatar. Although they didn't say anything, they had already made up their minds. This time, all of them owed Emoshur their lives. In the future, if Emoshur needed anything, as long as he asked, they would do anything. Lu Shuming came forward. There was an uncontrollable excitement on his face as he patted Emoshur's shoulder heavily. "Brother, you're really something." A commander, a man in his 90s, and a young man in his 20s calling each other brothers. This was almost impossible. However, in front of Emoshur, nothing was impossible. Lu Shuming had always had a good impression of Emoshur before, but that was only because of Emoshur's extreme talent. This time, it was because Emoshur had saved more than 2,000 soldiers. These soldiers were all his brothers. If these brothers died in battle today because of his mistakes, then even if he died, he wouldn't be able to rest in peace. And now, because of Emoshur's appearance, his brothers had avoided death in battle. And he himself had avoided the guilt of his brothers dying in battle. "If you need any help in the future, just ask." With this sentence, Emoshur could do whatever he wanted in the entire Yuzhou in the future. Emoshur didn't stand on ceremony and nodded. Okay. With his personality, he naturally wouldn't stand on ceremony with Lu Shuming. While they were talking, the system's voice suddenly sounded in Emoshur's mind. "The total evolution points have reached 1 trillion. The system can be upgraded. Do you want to upgrade immediately?" Hearing this, Emoshur was secretly happy. He could finally upgrade again. He said in his heart, "Upgrade. This upgrade will take 12 hours. You can't sign in during the upgrade." Emoshur was naturally mentally prepared for this. No longer worrying about the time needed to upgrade, he said to Lu Shuming, "Commander Lu." Before he could finish speaking, Lu Shuming said, "Call me Big Brother." Emoshur didn't stand on ceremony. "Big Brother Lu, let's continue to exterminate the bandits." Lu Shuming was in a good mood and nodded. Of course, just like before. "Snipe." The sniper immediately replied in a loud voice, "Yes, sir." Emoshur took out the guiding tool in his hand, and his figure disappeared in a flicker. The sniper quickly raised his sniper rifle. At the same time, in the cave, the Psyche Masters among the bandits were overjoyed when they found out that the warriors were surrounded. At the same time, they were also the mastermind of the suited bandit leader. Boss is simply a clairvoyant. How did Boss know that there would be a flash flood? How did Boss know that the 1,000-page valley would have so many mutated desolate beasts? I'm convinced. I'm really convinced. Then, they detected the sudden appearance of a level 8 mutated dire beast. With a roar, all the beasts submitted. This made all the bandits extremely shocked. This brat. Damn it. Why would such a huge mutated dire beast suddenly appear out of nowhere? The bandit leader, Shi Moshwan, frowned slightly as he looked at the large amount of floodwater that had already poured into the cave. He had still underestimated that kid. He did not expect that kid to have such a special ability despite his ordinary appearance. First, he could teleport. Then, he could summon mutated dire beasts. If he had known earlier, he would have thought of a way to eliminate that kid first. But now it was too late to say anything. He could only make use of the complicated terrain in the cave to hide his figure. He would seek revenge on that kid when he made a comeback in the future. Just as he was thinking of this, a figure suddenly appeared behind him without any warning. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. It was bone-chilling. Almost at the same time as he dodged to the side, he turned around to look. He saw Emoshur dressed in black with a delicate face. He was holding a guiding device in his hand and was pointing it at his chest. "What the—" Shi Moshwan burst out with a rare outburst. At the same time, a wormhole teleportation device appeared in his right hand. However, at this moment, bang! His head had already exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The wormhole teleportation device in his hand fell to the ground with a thud. Emoshur walked over and picked up the wormhole teleportation device. He reached out and fiddled with the wormhole teleportation device for a moment. A three-dimensional map appeared on the device. In the center of the map were the coordinates of the teleportation device. Mosher zoomed in on the map and looked at it carefully. A place was shown on the map: Ancient Dragon Nation. Mosher was puzzled. He had never heard of Ancient Dragon Nation before. He had not even heard of it in legends. Obviously, this was a map that Shir-Moshwan had made himself. Or maybe it was a place that was directly added to the map. It seemed that he would have to make a trip to Ancient Dragon Nation if he had the chance in the future. After keeping the wormhole teleportation device in his system backpack, Mosher continued to look for his target in the cave. At the same time, outside the cave, when Mosher aimed the guiding device at Shir-Moshwan, everyone saw Shir-Moshwan's face. The next moment, Shir-Moshwan's head exploded into a cloud of blood mist. He's dead. The bandit leader, Shir-Moshwan, is dead. Brother Mo, well done. Damn it. That old schemer is finally dead. We can finally have a good night's sleep now. They had long known that the bandit leader was Shir-Moshwan. As long as Shir-Moshwan was still alive, the bandits would come back again. Now that the bandit leader, Shir-Moshwan, was finally dead, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Lu Shuming also clenched his fists slightly. He had been fighting with Shir-Moshwan for many years. Although they had never met, this guy was very slippery. No matter how many times he had suppressed the bandits, he could always escape. And in a very short time, he would gather another group of bandits and cause trouble again. Now that Shir-Moshwan was finally dead, one of his worries had been removed, and all the credit should go to Mosher. Now that the bandit leader, Shir-Moshwan, was dead, the remaining 1,000 or so bandits were like bees without a king. Mosher first used the dragon will to kill all the bandits that could be killed. Only 100 or so desolate hunters and bandits were left. Then, he continued to do the same thing and killed all the bandits one by one. At this point, all the bandits in Yuzhou had been wiped out. At this point, the rain had completely stopped. The rays of the sun were like 10,000 sharp arrows, piercing through the clouds and shooting toward the ground. The water level of the flood below had also decreased by a lot. Under the sunlight, the flood began to shimmer and move coquettishly. Lu Shuming ordered, "Start to clean up the corpses of the bandits." Some of the soldiers stayed outside to guard, while the rest began to enter the cave to clean up the corpses. At the same time, Lu Shuming once again called Commander Qi. At the military headquarters in Yuzhou, in the teleportation room, Commander Qi's face was solemn, and his eyes were fixed on the teleportation location. Although he knew that almost none of the soldiers under Lu Shuming's command would be teleported back to do harsh work during a battle. But he still held on to the last glimmer of hope. He hoped that a few of them could live a harsh life for once. Chapter 377. Yuzhou Military Headquarters. Commander Qi was in the teleportation room, his eyes fixed on the teleportation location. Among the people who were suppressing the bandits, more than 200 people were equipped with the wormhole teleportation device. He hoped that these people could teleport back when their lives were in danger. But he also knew that all the soldiers led by Lu Shuming treated their comrades as brothers. They couldn't just watch their comrades die while they used the wormhole teleportation device to survive. The medical soldiers at the scene all had solemn expressions. They all hoped that the teleportation location would light up. They really hoped that the 200 soldiers could be a little selfish and live a harsh life. However, after half an hour, there was no movement at all, and everyone's hearts gradually sank, because they knew that if there was no movement, it meant that the situation was getting worse. Commander Qi's face was as dark as water, but his heart was always in his throat. At this moment, he was afraid. He was afraid of hearing the ringtone of the multifunctional watch. He was afraid of receiving a call from Lu Shuming, because according to the convention, the supreme commander of every mission would report the situation one last time before sacrificing himself if he encountered an unavoidable danger. This time, Lu Shuming obviously wouldn't come back alive after encountering the flood and beast tide. Then, before he sacrificed himself, he would definitely make a final report. Whatever he was afraid of, it would happen. Commander Chi was thinking of this when his phone suddenly rang. Knock, 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 knock. This sudden sound caused everyone's heart to clench. Commander Chi looked at the multifunctional watch, which showed Lu Shuming's profile picture. His heart instantly sank. He didn't want to pick up the call. He didn't want to pick up the call. Once he picked it up, it would be Lu Shuming's last farewell. His old subordinate of more than 100 years, his last farewell. Everyone present also fixed their eyes on Commander Chi. But he had to pick up the call eventually. This call was Lu Shuming's last words. If he couldn't pick up the call, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Thinking of this, he finally pressed the button to pick up the call. Looking at the three-dimensional portrait of Lu Shuming projected on the watch, his face was solemn. Shuming, if you have anything to say, just say it. Lu Shuming smiled and said, Chief Commander, we've completed the mission. We wiped out all the bandits and killed the bandit leader, Shi Moshwan. Commander Chi. After being stunned for 3 seconds, Commander Chi finally reacted. You guys are out of danger? Lu Shuming nodded. Yes, it's all thanks to Mo Shi. With that summoned beast of his, we were able to wipe out the entire beast tide. Commander Chi. He was stunned for another 2 seconds, and an unconcealable shock appeared on his face. A single summoned beast could exterminate hundreds of thousands of desolate beasts. What kind of summoned beast was that? Ancient divine beast? Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? However, he did not say these words out loud. He quickly retracted his shocked expression and asked, Report the casualties. Lu Shuming said, Of the 2,000 soldiers in this operation, 3 were seriously injured, 220 were lightly injured, and the death toll was 0. Towards the end, Lu Shuming raised his voice by an octave. As a veteran warrior who had lived for nearly 100 years, he was not afraid of hardships or death. He was afraid that he would not be able to bring these warriors back to the battlefield. But this time, not a single one of the 2,000 warriors died. In his military career, he had experienced so many fierce battles, but in the end, he had never died. This was the first time. Hearing this, Commander Chi was overjoyed. Exterminating the bandits with 0 deaths and wiping out all the desolate bandits. This is definitely the first time since exterminating the bandits. When you come back, I will give you credit. Yes, Chief. Lu Shuming gave a standard military salute. In the teleportation room, all the officers and military doctors were in a good mood at this time. They thought that not a single one of the 2,000 people would be able to return. They did not expect that not only would they be able to return, but they would also achieve a complete victory. This was definitely a great surprise. Next, the military cleaned up the battlefield and rushed to the military headquarters. That night, the system prompt sounded in Mo Shi's mind. Frowny face system upgrade successful. Mo Shi, who was resting, suddenly shivered and looked at the information in his mind. Upgrade reward, 1,000 wormhole sniper rifle bullets. Upgrade reward, 100 virtual sentry towers. Upgrade reward, virtual dragon palace upgraded to level 3. Mo Shi checked these rewards one by one. Previously, he had signed in for the wormhole sniper rifle, but there were no bullets. He had originally planned to sign in at the ammunition depot after returning to the military base to see if he could sign in for bullets. He did not expect that the system upgrade this time would directly reward him with 1,000 bullets. If the 100 virtual sentry towers were all set up, they could form a whole. It would allow Mo Shi to control a larger area. Moreover, the upgraded virtual sentry towers had the ability to attack autonomously. As for the benefits after the upgrade of the virtual dragon palace, there were too many. There was no need to go into detail here. Only the strongest point was that it could resist attacks below the Grand Desolate Master level. Based on this point alone, in the entire 16 prefectures of Yuyun, there were only a handful of forces that could pose a threat to them. After all, even in the entire 16 prefectures of Yuyun, Grand Desolate Masters were rare. Then, the system prompt continued to sound in his mind. Frowny face. This upgrade content. The system backpack has evolved into a miniature world. The upgrade content was very simple. There was only one thing. Mo was puzzled and asked, "Miniature world?" The system's voice replied frowny face. After the system backpack evolved into a miniature world, it maintained its original storage function. Moreover, the owner can bring a certain number of people into this miniature world. In the initial state of the miniature world, a maximum of 10 people can enter. Seeing this, Mo's heart skipped a beat. However, looking at the soldiers who were resting around him, he did not move in the end. The next afternoon, he returned to the military headquarters. The military held a grand celebration banquet for all the soldiers. At the celebration banquet, the soldiers raised their glasses and toasted to Mo. Although they did not speak much, their gratitude to Mo was all in this glass of wine. At the same time, the leaders of the military headquarters also came to toast to Mo. Mo did not refuse anyone. The celebration banquet lasted until 12 o'clock in the evening. Although the soldiers' physiques were far superior to ordinary people, the wine they drank was not ordinary wine. It was a strong wine specially made for cultivators. An ordinary person would probably die from drinking just one sip. The group of warriors were all dead drunk. Mo was also sent back to his room by a soldier. After the soldier left, Mo took a recovery potion. He woke up within 5 minutes. His body did not feel uncomfortable at all, as if what he had just drunk was not wine but water. With a thought, he opened the system backpack. At this time, the system backpack was not in the grid shape of the game backpack. Instead, it was a small world. Chapter 378. When Mo focused his attention on the system backpack. He saw that the system backpack at this time was no longer a flat graphic like the previous game grid. Instead, it was a three-dimensional graphic. There was a bamboo forest, a row of wooden houses, and a small lake. Mo only felt that it was very novel. He asked the system, "Can I go in?" The system replied, "Yes." Mo asked, "How do I go in?" The system replied, "Mind." Mo immediately thought of entering the miniature world. The next moment, his figure had already disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already by the lake. Looking up, the sky was blue. There was no sun, but it was as bright as day. Looking down, the lake water was green. In the lake water, one could also see fish swaying their bodies and slowly swimming by. There were a total of 50 bamboo houses by the lake. Dragon's mind scanned and found that the 50 bamboo houses stored the things that Mo had stored in the system backpack before. But it was not like ordinary houses, which could not be put any more things after they were full. Every bamboo house here was like a system backpack. As soon as one entered the bamboo house, one would discover that there were a total of 1,000 small compartments in each bamboo house. Each grid could store 100 of the same items on top of each other. In other words, each bamboo house could store 100,000 items. All 50 bamboo houses could store 5 million items. That was very crazy. With this, Mo felt that he would not need to use his personal storage in the future. The bamboo forest behind the houses was not very large, but there were plenty of animals that should be there. From big wild boars to small crickets, there were all kinds of animals. In Mo's perception, this miniature world was actually a small ecosphere. There was no problem for a few people to live in such a miniature ecosphere. No wonder the system stipulated that only 10 people could enter in the initial state. More than 10 people would exceed the limit of what this ecosphere could bear. It seemed that living here was pretty good. Mo scanned the miniature world with Dragon's mind. He found that the area here was not large. At most, it was about 5 square kilometers. Perhaps as the system was upgraded in the future, this miniature world would get bigger and bigger. 2 days later, Mo returned to Hunting Island number 1. He checked the virtual dragon palace carefully. Be it in terms of attack or defense, the virtual dragon palace was much stronger than before. Not all of them could withstand attacks below the Grand Desolate Master level. Furthermore, it could deal damage to any enemy below the Grand Desolate Master level. With the virtual dragon palace, Missouri sure could go anywhere he wanted in the future with peace of mind. Currently, the number of combat mechas in the base had reached 600. Currently, the number of mechas in the base was only less than that of the military in Yuzhou. As for the other forces before the world meeting, they were not worth mentioning at all. In the next few days, Mo sure learned some news. The most important news was about this year's ancient dragon battlefield. According to the information he received, he only needed a wormhole to enter the ancient dragon battlefield. But this year, several forces from the Cloud State had occupied the ancient dragon battlefield. Even if they teleported there, they would only be able to move around the periphery of the ancient dragon battlefield. They would not be able to enter the central area. Mo sure asked Tyrant to learn more about these forces. The 5 forces that occupied the ancient dragon battlefield were the top 10 forces in the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud State. Heavenly Gold Sect, Heavenly Wood Sect, Heavenly Water Sect, Heavenly Fire Sect, and Heavenly Earth Sect. The ancestors of these 5 sects were once 5 brothers from the same family. They had founded the 5 sections. And these 5 sects were all ranked in the top 100 of the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud State. Furthermore, the Heavenly Gold Sect and Heavenly Wood Sect were the strongest and second strongest forces in the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud State. One could not help but sigh at how powerful their parents' genes were. And among these forces, there were basically grand desolate masters in charge. It seemed like if he wanted to gain an advantage in the ancient dragon battlefield, he would have to raise the Azure Dragon clone to a super-mutated dire beast as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Mo sure decided to go to the 10th hunting ground to get more Titan dragon blood and raise his strength to that of a grand desolate master as soon as possible. Before he went, he did a detailed understanding of the 10th hunting ground. The virus in the 10th hunting ground was the blood breed virus. More than half of the people in the 10th hunting ground were infected by the blood breed virus. In the 10th hunting ground, after the wardens were infected, they would be called evolved blood breeds. Therefore, the level of the hunters corresponded to the level of the evolved blood breeds. In the 10th hunting ground, the strongest were the level 10 evolved blood breeds. Therefore, for the current Mo sure, this was the best place to obtain giant dragon blood. Next, Mo sure rested for a few more days. Only then did he bring Emma to the 10th hunting island. Emma was also a blood breed, so she knew more about them. It was naturally the best place to bring her to the 10th hunting ground. The 10th hunting island was similar to all the hunting islands that Mo sure had been to before. However, a single ticket here cost 500,000 yuan. Of course, those who could go to the 10th hunting island were basically level 10 hunters. It wouldn't be difficult for such an existence to obtain 500,000 gold coins. In the vast sea, there was an island with a radius of more than 100 square kilometers. It was much smaller than the first hunting island. However, to Mo sure's surprise, there were many people who came to the 10th hunting island. It was almost the same as the people on the second hunting island that Mo sure had been to before. After landing on the 10th hunting island, he found that there were many people here. Many of them had just arrived on the 10th hunting island and were planning to enter the teleportation hall. Some had already returned from the 10th hunting ground and were resting on the 10th hunting island. There were also some who were here to have fun. Mo sure thought for a while and understood. Why were there so few hunters on the continent? It was because many people were stuck at the level of level 10 scavenger. As long as one's talent was not too bad, as long as one worked hard, one could become a level 10 hunter in one's lifetime. However, in order to become a hunter, one needed not only hard work, but also top-notch talent and some luck. Therefore, many people were stuck at level 10 hunters and could not make any progress for the rest of their lives. Therefore, almost all level 10 hunters would come to the 10th hunting ground to train. They hoped to make use of the pressure from the countless blood breeds in the 10th hunting ground to break through and become a hunter. Mo sure looked at his number on the electronic screen in the teleportation hall. His number was already over 100. He had to wait for about half an hour before he could be teleported. Mo sure, Emma, and her son went to the teleportation hall. There were already more than 200 people waiting in the teleportation hall. Some of these people had just arrived today, while others had just returned from the 10th hunting ground and had just arrived at the 10th hunting ground. There were more than 30 people in the teleportation hall. They were all surrounding a young man in the middle. Chapter 379. The 30-odd people were surrounding a young man in the middle. Emoshur also took a second look. This young man was not as bright as a man. Instead, he had the femininity of a woman. His face was more delicate than a woman's, and his lips were more enchanting than a woman's. Every move he made didn't seem masculine at all. This made Emoshur think of two words: little fresh meat. Could it be that there were also fangirls in the Flaming Land who chased after little fresh meat? Zhang Xian swiftly plundered their memories and examined them carefully before coming to a realization. This person was called Yi Bufan. He was a disciple of the Heavenly Gold Sect, the number 1 force in the 16 prefectures of Serene Cloud. He was also the personal disciple of the Heavenly Gold Sect's first elder. Therefore, in the eyes of these people, his status was even more honorable than the sect masters of other forces. While Emoshur was observing the little fresh meat was also sizing up Emoshur. After sizing up Emoshur for a while, he looked at Emma, who was beside Emoshur. His gaze moved between Emma and her son, and finally landed on Emma. He looked for a full 5 seconds before retracting his gaze. Emoshur frowned slightly. This person's gaze was a little strange. However, no matter who you are, if you dare to provoke me, I can only apologize. Half an hour later, it was finally Emoshur's turn to be teleported. Soon, they were teleported to the 10th hunting ground, the Blood Wolf Star. It was currently daytime. The Blood Wolf Star rotated very slowly. A day was equivalent to a month in the Flaming Land. Although vampires aren't as afraid of sunlight as you say, they still feel uncomfortable when the sun shines on them. Therefore, there were fewer blood breeds active during the day than at night. This was also why Emoshur had waited until today to come to the 10th hunting ground. Today was the beginning of the day. He glanced to the east. The sun had just broken free from the darkness and was hanging in the eastern sky. In addition to the sun, there was a huge red planet floating in the southern sky. From the naked eye, this huge blood-red planet was thousands of times larger than the sun. It almost took up half of the sky. However, in terms of brightness, it was slightly weaker than the sun. Around the blood-red planet, there was a ring of stars that emitted a crystalline blue light. Although Emoshur already had some understanding of this before he came, he was still shocked when he saw this magnificent scene. Just like Emoshur, the people who had been teleported here with him were also stunned by this magnificent scene. However, Yi Bufan from the Skygold sect had his eyes fixed on Emma and her son. Emma also noticed that there was something wrong with this person's gaze. She couldn't help but shield her son behind her. She shifted her body and hid behind Emoshur. She wasn't afraid of Yi Bufan of the Celestial Gold sect, but she was afraid of causing trouble for Emoshur. Apart from the magnificent view in the sky, the scenery on the ground of the Blood Wolf Star was much more magnificent than that of the Flaming Dawn continent. In the distance were ring-shaped mountains. However, these craters were not craters formed by meteorites. Instead, they were volcanoes. There were probably hundreds of them. These volcanoes were covered in lush vegetation and ancient trees. Closer to them was a plain. A large river meandered across the plain. Following this river, one could reach the city of the natives of the Blood Wolf Star after traveling for more than 500 kilometers. Although the civilization of the Blood Wolf Star hadn't reached the level of civilization on Earth, it wasn't a barbaric era. The people here already knew how to use some technology. It was almost equivalent to the Middle Ages. There were temples and paladins. However, among these paladins, the strongest could only reach the strength of a level 5 hunter. Therefore, any level 10 hunter who came to the Blood Wolf Star could easily crush these paladins. Emoshur glanced at the people who had been teleported here with him. They were basically flying along the river towards the city. Firstly, it was their first time here and they had to go to the city to get a better understanding of this planet. Secondly, the natives treated these people like gods. In the city, they ate well and drank well, and they could even do whatever they wanted. Of course, the difference between this and the second hunting ground was that these people wouldn't kill the innocent in the city. After all, the stronger one was, the higher one's vision would be, and the more one would see things from a different perspective. For example, if a child saw a group of ants, he would very likely step on them and burn them with boiling water. However, a normal adult wouldn't pay attention to ants. Of course, this didn't rule out the occasional pervert who specialized in torturing and killing animals. However, Mosher didn't go to the city. He came to this planet this time to improve his strength. He didn't want to interact with too many people. He wasn't such a pure person. After these people left, Mosher strolled around the plain to see if he could meet any bloodbreeds. It was said that the bloodbreeds he met during the day were those who couldn't survive among the bloodbreeds. They could only come out during the day and risk their lives to find food. However, although they were level 10 evolved bloodbreeds, their strength was weaker than other bloodbreeds. This was the perfect time for Mosher to obtain the giant dragon blood. After strolling for about half an hour, he looked at the sun in the sky. It was still so high, as if it had never moved. At this moment, Mosher's dragon cognition had already detected a blood breed in the forest on the cliff to the right. Perhaps it had not drunk human blood for too long, but it had just killed a blood fiend and was crazily devouring the blood of this mutated blood fiend. Mosher immediately brought Emma and her son towards this evolved blood breed. After a few minutes, they arrived behind the blood breed. He saw that it was lying on the ground, its hands grabbing the blood fiend and its mouth firmly pressed against the blood fiend's neck. Coo, coo, coo. It was continuously devouring the blood of the blood fiend. It didn't seem to have the elegance that a blood breed should have. She must have been starving. When a blood breed was hungry to a certain extent, elegance and aristocratic temperament were all nonsense. Mosher glanced at the blood breed's level 10 evolved blood breed. It was equivalent to a level 10 scavenger. At this moment, the blood breed had also noticed Mosher's arrival. Its blood-red eyes immediately revealed a thirsty look. It let out an excited cry from its throat. Yo, fresh human blood. As it spoke, it leaped towards Mosher. Mosher had already signaled for Emma and her son to move aside. Then, his figure flashed and he appeared behind the blood breed. Just like before, he did not use any energy. He directly engaged in close combat. The sharp claws on his right hand had already condensed, and he slashed towards the blood breed's neck. However, although a level 10 evolved blood breed was equivalent to a level 10 scavenger in terms of level, it was much stronger than a level 10 scavenger in many aspects, especially its speed. It dodged Mosher's attack in a flash. It let out another roar from its throat. A mere level 8 scavenger dares to be impudent in front of me? You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.